अस्सलाम वालेकुम दोस्तों। आज की वीडियो में मैं आपको बताने वाली हूँ एक हॉरर स्टोरी जो सुनकर आप बहुत डर जाओगे। तो ये स्टोरी का नाम है द डोर इन द वॉल। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। वन कॉन्फिडेंटल इवनिंग नॉट 3 months बैक अगो, Linear Valance told me this story of the door in the wall, and at that time I thought that so far as he was concerned, it was a true story. He told it me with such a direct simplicity of conviction that I could not do otherwise than believe in him. But in the morning, in my own flat, I woke to a different atmosphere, and as I lay in bed and recalled the things he told me, stripped of the glamour of his earnest, slow voice, turned of the focused, shaded table light, the shadowy atmosphere, the wrapped about him, and the pleasant, bright things, and dessert, and glasses, and napery of the dinner we had shared, making them for a time and bright little world quite cut off from everyday realities. I saw it all as frankly incredible. He was mystifying, I said, and then how well he did it. It is not quite the thing I should have expected him, of all people, to do well. Afterwards, as I sat up in bed and sipped my morning tea, I found myself trying to account for the flavor of reality that perplexed me in his impossible reminiscences by supposing they did in same way suggest present convey. I hardly know which word to use experientially. It was otherwise impossible to tell. Well, I did not resort to that explanation now. I have got over my intervening doubts. I believe now, as I believed at the moment of telling, that Valence did the very best of his ability strip the truth of his secret for me. But whether he himself saw or only thought he saw, whether he himself was a possessor of an instable privilege or the victim of a fantastic dream, I cannot pretend to guess. Even the facts of his death, which ended my doubts forever, threw no light on that. That much the reader much must judge for himself. I forgot now what chance comment or criticism of mine moved so a man to confide him in him. He was, I think, defining himself against an impulsion of silence and unreliability I had made in relation to a great public movement in which he had disappointed me. But he plunged suddenly. I have, he said, a preoccupation. I know, he went on, after a pause that he devoted to the study of his cigar ash. I have been neglected. The fact is, it is not a case of ghost, but it's an odd thing to tell of Redmond. I'm haunted. I'm haunted by something that rather takes the light out of things, that fills me with longings. He paused, checked by that English sinus that so often overcomes us when we would speak of moving or grave or beautiful things. You were a saint, Ethan, Stan, all through, he said, and for a moment that seemed to me quite irrelevant. Well, and he paused, then very handily at first, but afterwards more easy. He began to tell of things that was hidden in his life, the haunting memory of a beauty and happiness that filled his heart with unstable longings, that made all the interest and spectacle of worldly life seem dull and tedious and vain to him. Now that I have the clue to it, The things seem written visible in his face. I have a photograph in which that look of detachment has been catch. It reminds me of that a woman once said him, a woman who loved him greatly. Suddenly she said, the interest goes out of him. He forgets you. He does not care a rap for you under his very nose. Yet the interest was not always out of him, and when he, holding his attention to a thing Valence would contrive to be an extremely successful man. His career indeed is set with successes. He left me behind him long ago. He soared up over my head and cut a figure into the world that I could not cut. Anyhow, he was still a year short of 40, and they say now that he would have been in office and very probably in the new cabinet he, he, he had lived. At school, he always beat me without effort. As it were be nature, we were at school together at college in West Kestegon for almost all of our school time. He came into the school as my co-equal, but he left far above me in a blaze of scholarships and brilliant performance. Yet, I think I made a fair average running, and it was at school I heard first of the door in the wall that I was to hear of a second time only a month before his death. To him, at least, the door in the wall was a real door leading through a real wall to realities. Of that, I am now quite assured. And then it came into his life early when he was a little fellow between 5 and 6. I remember how, as he sat making his confession to me with a slow gravity, he reasoned and reckoned the date of it. There was, he said, a creeper in it, all the bright uniform chrism in a clear amber sunshine against a white wall that came into the impression somehow. True, I don't clearly remember how, and there were horse chestnut leaves upon the clean pavement outside. The green door, they were botched yellow and green, not brown, not dirty, so that they must horse chestnut leaves every year, and I ought to know. If I am right in that, I was about 5 years and 4 months old. He said, rather a precious little boy. He learned to talk at an abnormally early age, and he was so sane of intimate that most children scarcely attain by serving or ate. His mother died when he was born, and he was under the less vigilant and care of a nursery governess. His father was a stern lawyer who gave him little attention and expected great things of him. For all his brightness, he found life a little grey and dull, I think, and one day he wondered. He could not recall the particular neglect that enabled him to get away, nor the course he took among the west roads. All that faded among the incredible blurs of memory. But the white wall and the green door stood out quite as his memory of the remote childish experience ran. He did at the very first sight of that door experience a peculiar emotion, attraction, a desire to get to the door and open it and walk in, and at the same time he had the clearest conviction that either it was unwise or it was wrong of him. He could not tell which, to yield to this attraction. He insisted upon it, a curious thing that he knew from the very beginning, unless memory has played him the queerest trick, that the door was unfastened and that he could go in as he chose. I seemed to see the figure of that little boy drawn, and it was very clear in his mind too. Through why it should be so was never explained. That his father would be very angry if he went to the door. If you want the remaining story, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to my channel, Aisha's Queen.